In this video, I'll be giving you detailed tutorial on how to make this trendy crop top, button down crop top. And in my next video, you will see how to knit the skirt. So if this is something you're interested in, please sit tight as we get started. And please don't forget to subscribe to my channel so that you get new videos when I upload them. So let's get started. Now the first thing to do on our pattern paper is to draw a straight line ½ inch from the beginning of the paper downwards, and then hold a straight line there. Next, on the edge of the drafting paper, go in by 2½ inches inward, and then mark and hold down. Please note that this part is not among the main measurement. This is just an addition to the main measurement because we are going to be putting buttons at the front of the dress. Next is to take the shoulder measurement, and the shoulder measurement should be placed on the line we drew, and the 2½ inches line we drew. So from that point, take your shoulder measurement plus ½ inch for joining of the sleeve, and then you mark. Next, on the same line, I mark 3 inches for the opening of the neck, and this is the basic neck opening, 3 inches by 3 inches. So I mark 3 inches downwards, and then I'll connect them with my curve ruler. Ensure that each side of the curve ruler is meeting the mark points, and then you curve. Next, on the shoulder point, come down by ½ inch down, and then draw a line meeting the neckline as shown. After that, to get the chest line or the armhole line, I place my tape on the shoulder line down, and I marked it, and then hold a straight line there. Next, we'll bring around the same measurement we use for the shoulder down to the chest line or armhole line and mark, which is 8 inches, and then we'll connect that same 8 inches to the 8 inches above on the chest line and connect. Next, place the tape on the shoulder line to the armhole line and mark the middle, and then at that point you go inward by ½ inch. Next, introduce your curve ruler and place your curve ruler at that point, at the middle, at the bottom of the armhole line and at the shoulder line, and then you create a curve there. Now, since the upper part of the body is done, the next thing is to place your tape on the shoulder line and mark under bust line, and then connect with your ruler. Make a straight line there too. Place your tape on the shoulder again and mark the top length. So we only have the chest line, the under bust line, and the length of the top. Remember, this top is a crop top, so we are not going to be taking a long top length. Next, I added the hemming allowance. So this is also called the allowance for folding the top to give it a neat finishing. So I use 1½ inches for this folding here. So I just connect the lines and then make a straight line there. Moving forward, I'll start inputting my body measurements. So originally the measurement for this is 28 divided by 4, which is 9. But because it's not a fitted top, I'm going to add 1 inch allowance to it, and then I'll mark that, and next I'll add the sewing allowance, which is 1½ inches. So normally I'm supposed to take measurement for the underbust, but because it's not a fitted top, I'm just going to use the measurement for the bust, for under the bust, and for the bottom of the top. So I'll just mark that same measurement I took for the up downward, and then connect the lines straight down. After that is done, the next thing is to cut out the pattern. So while cutting out the pattern, I added a bit to the neck, like ½ inch, because I realized I wanted it to be more fitted at the neck. But you can still go ahead and use the 3 inches by 3 inches that we used for the neck initially. It will still be fine. After cutting the front part, the next thing is to fold in the extra 2.5 inches we added inside like this, and then place this front piece on a new paper. Ensure that it is properly laid down. If possible, you can use pin to pin it down. Next is to get the depth of the back neckline. So I'm going down by 1 inch, and the width is still 3 inches. I just mark that and connect as shown. Now, apart from the neckline, everything else is the same. The neckline for the back and the front is different. So I'll just go ahead and cut it all round. But the neck for the back is going to be different. But the width is going to be the same. Hope you understand. When I mean the same, I mean minus the 2.5 inches for the front, which we already folded inside. Minus that, every other thing is the same. And of course, minus the depth of the neckline for the back. Next up is the sleeve. So for the sleeve, as we did for the other one, we're going to mark 1/2 inch above, which is our starting point. After that, I mark 8 inches for the length of the sleeve, and then I make a straight line there as same. I'll also add 2 inch for the hemming allowance for the bottom of the sleeve, and then I'll also mark that, give that a straight line there. Next, at the top of the paper, I'm going to mark 3 inches. I mistakenly mark 4 inches on this video, but please, you can take 3 inches. And from the other side as shown in the video, I'll go down by 3.5 inches. Next, I will use my curve ruler to connect the both points on the paper as shown. You can also do this with free hands, but I'm just doing this in case some of you want to use curve ruler like this. But if you don't want to use a curve ruler, you can use your free hand, which can be even more better. If you follow this procedure carefully, you are going to have a perfect sleeve that is going to fit perfectly into your armhole. Next, to be sure that the armhole on the dress fits perfectly to the sleeve, I'm going to measure the armhole from the top. I measured it and I got 11.5 inches minus allowance for joining the shoulder. So I use that 11.5 inches to trace and confirm that it is exactly what I have in the paper as shown here in the video. So I confirmed that it is the same thing and I marked there. Next is to put in our round sleeve measurement. So the measurement you are using for this sleeve is the biggest part of the arm because it's a short sleeve. So the round sleeve is 15, but I added 14, but I added 1 inch to make it free, and I added also my sewing allowance for the sleeve. I marked that and I connected from the point where my 11.5 stopped down to the bottom of the sleeve. After that is done, I'll go ahead and cut this out. As you can see, I'm putting the additional hemming allowance like this, and that's how it's going to be at the end of the day after completing the sleeve. Next, we'll start using our drafted pattern to trace on our fabric. So here I've placed the pattern paper on the fabric we'll be using. So I'm going to pin it down so that it does not move. So this is the front part of the pattern. So after pinning down, I'll go ahead and cut it out. So remember to notch the 2.5 inches you added to your pattern, because this is very important. So I lost the pattern we drafted for the back piece. So because of that, I just went ahead to use the front pattern to cut out the back pattern. So what I did here is that I folded the fabric into two without any joining at the middle for the back. The back won't have any zip. And then I place my front pattern on the fabric and then I trace it all around. Now the only difference between this part and the back part, as we discussed earlier, was that everything is the same apart from the neckline. So the neckline, the depth of the neckline is smaller than the depth of the neckline for the front. So you can use 1 inch or 1.5 inch for the depth of the back piece and connect it with the width of the neckline. So it should not be more than 1.5 inch if you are cutting the back part for this dress. So now the back piece and the front piece are ready. So next is to cut out fabric for the sleeve. To cut the sleeve, I folded my fabric into 4. Then I place the pattern paper for the sleeve on top the fabric. Then I pin it down to the fabric, ensuring that it's probably placed on the fabric, and then I cut out the sleeve, adding addition of 1/2 inch at the top for joining the sleeve to the shoulder. After cutting, I had 2 pieces of sleeve for the both armhole. Now we have our sleeve ready, the front piece and the back piece ready. Next is to turn in the neckline with a bias. So to do that, I use another lighter fabric like a lining. I place it under the front piece for the front and then trace out the neckline on it as shown in the video. So I'm cutting 2 pieces for the turning of the front neckline. So that's why I'm going to divide it into 2, and then I'm going to cut it round with like 2 inches round. So I'm using freehand. You can mark it and then cut it round so that you have a perfect curve. I'll do the same thing for the back piece. I'll fold the lining into 2 and place the back piece on top of the lining, and then I'll cut it. Remember, the back doesn't have any division or any joining, so it should be on fold while you cut. Next step, I'll place the right side of the back piece on the turning and I'll pin it down to go to my machine and sew. So I'm going to sew it 1/4 inch from one side of the shoulder down to the other side of the shoulder, and then I will do the same thing for the front piece, the right side of the fabric facing the lining, and I'll pin that sew down. I'll repeat that process for the second part of the front piece, and I'll sew. I'll come back and show you what next. After turning the neckline for the 3 pieces for the top, I have something like this. So next thing I'll do is to notch the neckline so that when we are ironing the neck, it's going to lay flat. So ensure you notch the neckline from the fabric, not from the side of the line, so that you know exactly what you are doing. After notching the neckline for all the pieces, what you do next is to push the allowance you use to turn the neckline to the side of the lining that you use to turn the neckline. You push it to that side and you sew on it on the lining. Do a tiny stitch on it. Repeat the process on the rest part of your other necklines. After running a top stitch on the neckline, the next thing I'll do is to fold it inside. Fold the turning or the lining that you use to turn the net inside, and then use iron, steaming irons, to iron it down, to press it down. If you don't have a steam iron, you can pour water on the neckline and then use your normal iron to iron it down. I'll do the same thing for the rest part of the neckline. After that is done, I will trim out any excess from the lining. I'll do the same for the rest to check if there's any excess. Next, join the shoulder. To do this, make sure the right side of the fabric on the shoulder is facing the right side and the linings part of the shoulder is also touching the other side of the lining part. And then you pin down and sew 1/2 inch across each side. Do the same for the other side of the shoulder. After doing that, open the seam of the shoulder as shown in the video and iron it down so that it will give it a better look on the front of the dress. Do the same for the other part of the shoulder. Next, I added the sleeve to the dress. I notched the middle of the sleeve and place it at the middle of the shoulder where there's a journey there, and then I pin it down. So I usually start from this middle and sew down to ensure that no side is longer or shorter than. Next, I iron down the neckline as shown in the video. I push it to the other side, which is the wrong side of the fabric, as you can see, and I'll iron it down neatly. But after doing that, I will introduce hemming gum to make it stick down to the back of the dress properly. So if you don't have hemming gum, you can use your needle and thread. If you know how to hem a dress, then you can go ahead and use needle and thread. Remember, we added 2.5 inches to the front of the dress. So that 2.5 inches, I'll just go ahead and mark it as a guide for us to fold where we are going to place our buttons. I'll do the same for the other side of the front. I mark the same thing at the bottom too, also as a guide so that I will know where to stop. I flip it over to the other side so that I'm able to fold in. Then I first made the first fold of 0.8 inches. It's not up to 1 inches first, and I'll iron that down. Next, I'll iron hemming gum inside that part to lay it down properly before I fold it over to the other side. So I'm folding over again with the same 0.8 inches. I will ensure that not pass the 2.5 inches we mark from the beginning of the side. So this is to create at least 0.8 inches allowance for the buttons to lap each other on both sides. I'll repeat the same process on the other side of the front. So if you follow this process exactly as it's shown in this video, you are going to have what you place your button on, which is not included in the main measurement. But if you do not follow this process and you just fix your button, it's going to make the button tight. It's going to make the dress tight. That's why when you see some people wear button down shirts, either their bust is showing or their chest is showing because it's too tight. But if you create allowance like the way I'm doing so for where the button will lay down, then you don't have any issue with the overall measurement. Next is to take the length of the sleeve and fold and hem it or fold it. So to do that, I marked 8 inches, which is the length of the sleeve, and from there I folded the excess inside as shown. Then I ironed it. After ironing it, I put in the hemming gum inside, then iron it to lay it down properly. I also do the same for the other sleeve. Mark 8 inches downwards and fold the hemming allowance and hem it afterwards. After that is done, if you have not weaved your dress at this point, you can go ahead and weave all the joining of the dress. So the next thing is to start shaping the sides of the dress. So on both sides, I pin both sides of the dress down so that I can be able to sew out 1 inch or 2 inch out from the dress, which was the allowance we added initially. So I'll go to my machine and sew that and come back. After stitching it, I'll open out the seam as shown in the video and iron it out. So I'll repeat the same process for the other side of the dress. Next, I'll go ahead to hem the bottom of the top. So to do that, I'll take the length of the dress and fold in the excess at the bottom. And like we did for the sleeve and for the lapping for the buttons, we're going to hem that too down. As always, iron the allowances first before inputting your hemming gum so that you can be able to place it properly without having any squeeze at any point. I will also use the both sides at the front, middle front, to check if both of them are equal, so that after facing the button, one side will not be longer than the other side, and then I'll give that a good press before inserting the hemming gum as shown in the video. Next, to create the induction pocket, I went ahead to mark the length of 3.5 inches and then the width of 4.5 inches. Afterwards, I marked the middle of that 4.5, and from one side of the middle I went up by 1 inch, and on the other side I went up by 1 inch, and then I connect from the one side to the middle with my roller, and to the other side with my roller. And then I had this V-shaped looking pocket. So I went ahead to turn each pocket with another fabric, and came back, ironed it. After that is done, now time to place the pockets on the top. So from the shoulder of the top, I measured down by 6.5, and that's where I'll place the pocket. And on the other side, I did the same thing. And from the middle of each part of the front, I went in by 2.5 inches on both sides to make sure the pocket are placed at the middle of the top. And then I went ahead, pin it down, and went to my machine and sew. After sewing, push the pocket downwards and sew in it as shown in the video here. I'll do the same for the second pockets, and I'll be back. After that is done, I gave it a good iron. Next, to create space for where the buttonhole will be on the left side of the front, I went down by 1/2 inch, and from there I started marking 1 inch. Then after the 1 inch, I marked 3 inches downward, and then I marked another 1 inch, and I repeat the process till I get to the down of the top. So this 1 inch space I'm creating is where the buttonhole is going to stay. Next, to get where the buttons are going to stay, I went ahead and mark inside the buttonhole, lapping the other side on the other side shown in the video. I mark at the middle of the buttonhole to get where to place the buttons. So I'll remove it, and I'll tack the button there. I'll also tack it on the pocket, and this is how it looks after everything is done. So if this is your first time of seeing my video, thank you very much for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and please subscribe, because I'll be posting more videos about sewing. I think this video is my first long form video, so please do wait to subscribe.